Hello, beautiful friends. Happy new moon. Thank you for being here once again to expand our planetary service for this awakening humanity and ascending Mother Earth. And so, the biggest changes that I've ever seen in this ascension process have taken place since 11/11 last year. And I've shared this timeline before, but I like to look at it again and again and again since we are still in it. And I'm just so blown away by these changes. To me, it really has been a process, and that means process of planetary service. And that means that everyone who was assigned some task on this planet, whether it was an individual or groups, when they fulfilled that tasks, we moved into the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And just looking back at the work that we have done, and often in collaboration with Patricia Cota Robles, when we were working on the realignment of the planetary axis. So just looking at that is to me mind-blowing, and that was in 2023. And how that then absolutely exploded in 2024 when our task on 11/11 was really to end evil as energy in cosmos. And that alone was just, unbelievable because we are so used to the energy that we call evil, and it seems like it simply is part of our reality. But when you go back to the teachings of the great Yogananda, for example, the second coming of Christ, that one day we will look at together, how he described the origin of evil and then the workings of evil, and how evil was behind the creation of the false matrix. So, ancient energy that truly came to an end. And just like God's source or the creator is source of light, then there was source for true darkness, true evil. And that source ceased to exist at this cosmic level, not by some kind of war against it, but actually by integrating it into the oneness of all life. The way that this was shown was that sound creates. And so there are many different creation sounds. And all of these sounds have the power to be creative. And just one sound, one frequency was not really in tune with the other frequencies. So instead of creating in oneness and harmony and peace, that one frequency felt lost. And it felt so lost, even though it was never lost. It was a frequency that came from the oneness of all life. It had to come from the oneness of all life because there is only one, and that one is our one source. But this one frequency felt lost. And as it felt lost because it was off, it created what we would call distortions that ended up being evil. And this frequency was then last year reintegrated through this cosmic correction that we supported, of course, but it really wasn't up to us. It was just supporting it, witnessing it, being present for this, and doing whatever we were assigned to do. So this correction at this cosmic level took place, and this is just incredible because it obviously has been, we cannot even count it in human years, how long evil has been around. As Patricia says, eons, just so that we don't have to define it in time. But if we were to define it in time, it is in this cosmic cycle. So this cosmic cycle experienced such a huge correction. And now this one frequency that felt lost has been returned to oneness at a cosmic level. Now, what that has meant for us human beings, for our planet, for our system of the worlds, is just out of this world. Unbelievable stuff. So that was 11/11, and that led to a huge change in the fabric of our reality. We lived for a very long time in something that is called samsara, something that is called illusion, something that is called the false matrix. And the false matrix had a false, artificially generated membrane And through the membrane, we were separated from the true divine reality. This membrane was like a film around our world, and not just around the earth, but also in the interdimensional spaces of the earth. And so we didn't have the real reality really easily accessible to us. And this false matrix created the cycle of reincarnation. It also created what we know as karma. And so beings were being recycled into the false matrix again and again and again. It was very uneasy to actually exit the false matrix. It required an incredible and powerful electromagnetic field because this pull, it was the pull of the electromagnetic field that was artificial, that was actually pulling beings into matter, into attachment, into slavery. So when all of this dissolved, most of it dissolved on the 21st of December, it was also the dissolution of what we call the veil. The veil is that membrane, this electromagnetic field, this film that was around our world. So that dissolved, and we reported on this, but it kept dissolving, dissolving until it was completely pierced on the 29th of January. So no more veil of illusion. Now, if you follow the channel that I recommend on YouTube, which is Mr. MBB333, his name is Michael. So he's an image analyst, and he is, an image analyst. He is not, as far as I know, a spiritual person who follows some kind of ascension process. And that makes it very special because he is reporting that since 11/11, people have been sending him videos of unbelievable supernatural things that they witness mainly in the night sky. So I find it fascinating. I like to look at it because of people now are seeing without the veil. They are seeing in the skies these interdimensional spaces without the veil. So they are seeing all the UFOs and all that stuff that has always existed, but now people can actually see it all the time, every day, everywhere around the world. The other thing that is happening, of course, and that's also what Michael is reporting on, that we have incredible glitches in the electric grid of our world. Because the electric grid is actually the electric grid of the false matrix. So as we are now receiving true divine electricity, this false electricity is glitching. We've had many countries with complete blackouts since 11/11, and that will keep happening, of course. It is confusing also navigation, not just for animals, but also for our different devices that use navigation. So all of this is the result of no veil. On the 16th of March, so very close to the equinox, we had the complete, I would say, 100%, all of it, end of the false matrix, of the structures that were running the false matrix. Now, it would be wonderful if once the matrix is gone, the false matrix, that we would start immediately experiencing the divine matrix. But what happened is that when these interdimensional places became unveiled, what also became unveiled in these interdimensional spaces is the forces of what we would call darkness. And they are very real. And they have many different types of beings. Some of them are humanoid, some of them not. And actually, the forces of darkness always worked from the interdimensional places. Some people think that they were somehow part of our government and the deep state and who knows what. But I would say that is not exactly the truth because they were always behind the veil, always not to be seen, not to be known. So the real controllers of the false matrix were always in these interdimensional spaces, controlling us from behind the veil. So when this false matrix fell apart, what happened is that these interdimensional spaces, and some of them were even behind the moon, in a really big structure that is actually behind the moon. But because everything was unveiled, these interdimensional structures had to also open up. And so what happened is that many of these beings ended up here among us. And I'm not going to go into detail how it all works, but it's pretty unbelievable, of course. It all sounds totally crazy, and I get it. But we've had an influx of these very nefarious interdimensional beings to the earth. And some of them can, of course, use human bodies as well. And we've always know about things like possession or even walk-ins. The walk-in doesn't always have to be an angel. And so that has been happening since March 16th, like never before. The thing is that the light that's coming to us now, which started to come to the earth in unprecedented ways, in the most intense ways that we've ever experienced, actually, and that happened during May 5th. So many of us were working on the divine will, and we were working with the light of God and with the will of God. And when you have a large group in this quantum field, it takes two or more. And so we were close to 400. And so 400 of us were calling divine will in. So I think it added so much to what happened on May 5th when we experienced the universal sunrise, the new dawn. And there was a new alignment in our universe, and a new alignment in all galaxies and all worlds belonging to this one universe. And we have many universes, and many universes are within a cosmos. So our universe actually experienced the new dawn. And so since then, since May 5th, in this mystical month of May, we've experienced unbelievable influx and waves of light that have been coming into this world. Everything that has shifted in May has been huge. Almost every single day, there was a change in the field that we call the ethers, the divine reality. And we have been incredibly supported and working with and interacting with really the great ones. So the way that we interact with the great ones depends on our DNA, and not our physical DNA, but our actually light DNA, our light codes. And that is DNA that is not exactly ancestral DNA. It is our divine DNA. So if your divine DNA connects you to the angelic queendom and kingdom, the beings that you work with will be angels. If you are connected to some galactic beings through your DNA, you will be working with the galactic beings. And so for some of us, it can be that we are so connected to the beings that I always name here, like Yogananda, Ananda Mayi, Sri Kaleshwar, and the beings like Shiva and Shakti and Lakshmi. So again, it just is up to our DNA wherever we plug in, where we get authentic connection and information. So some people connect to the Ascended Masters, some people connect, to even Sanat Kumara that we worked here with. So it really depends. So for me, it was witnessing all these beings that I just named in these ethers having incredible celebrations. And one of the big celebrations, and I think Yogananda even mentions it in the autobiography of a yogi, how these beings do celebrate, and there are celebrations where they drink this elixir of bliss and celebrate truly with Divine Father and with Divine Mother. And so that's something that has been happening since actually the universal sunrise. It was always like a huge celebration and then some work to be done, and then a huge celebration and some work to be done. And as it all was fulfilled and done, the celebrations kept happening. So this weekend that we just had, we had another huge shift in our reality. And that's the one I will be speaking about today. And it was the anchoring of the blueprint for this ascending planet. And it is really blueprint for the new earth in the sacred, divine, feminine aspect. So that was the updates for today. And now we're going to go into really what happened this weekend. First of all, I really wanted to thank you so much for supporting all the work that we do with so many beings on this planet. I mentioned it in the email. Um, our group, and that's you and me here, we have been supporting so many, but mainly the Hopi people that many of you met, and we will keep working with them. And the Hopi people became really our physical family in this world. So through the donations, or through whatever we do here, when we have some financial flow, then we always gift so much to the Hopi people, to families, and actually single mothers in Nepal, to animals who have been rescued, and to people in need who reach out. So I wanted to say we had 21 dragons, and they immediately were purchased. And so that again will support mainly the Hopi people. And many of you reached out to me asking if we have anything else. I wanted to mention, since the World Congress of Illumination, we also have a wonderful Mother Mary, and I still have 15 of these. So I put them in the shop on the website if you're interested. They absolutely unique. Every single one of them is a unique art piece created by a couple who live in New York, but they originally came from Vietnam. And I reached out to them because we were going to the World Congress on Illumination, not last year, but the year before. And I wanted to create Mother Mary. And Mother Mary in Cosmos is called Ma-Ra. So we always use these sacred syllables. So it's the cosmic mother, Mara. And they did something so amazing. They are handcrafted, but they also made from a sacred tree that is called kapok. And that's very unique to Vietnam. And kapok tree is the tree from the Avatar movie. It's, the fluffy white tree. It's very magical. And so this beautiful Mara is made from the sacred kapok tree. And so to move on, this is really what's happening here in our galaxy. We are receiving this incredible influx of light. It's coming through our bodies. We work with Sanat Kumara, which was just unbelievable. And if you have the album, keep working with that last transmission of Sanat Kumara every day if you can. And the most important aspect of the divine work that we do here in this ascension process is that as a human being, we are actually dissolving, losing, undoing our false self that was created in a false matrix. The false self is the biggest burden that every single one of us probably carries and has carried. The more we attune to the divine self, the more we attune to the love that we are and to the light that we are. So the personality is very often not matching the qualities of the divine self. So in this ascension process, it is all about bringing the divine self into the driver's seats and to be the one who manages all our actions, who manages our being, who is the ultimate consciousness of who we are. So in this ascension process, we will lose our very often limited personality self, who really is filled with illusion, with the illusion of the false self. So today we will start, and we will do more work this week. I will put it on a website. So today is the 26th. So we will again meet on the 27th, which is tomorrow, and then again on the 29th. So not on the 28th, but 27 and 29. And we will work with the blueprint for the new earth. So some of you have this book. It's a book, I want to say, that I wrote, but I didn't really write it. I'm going to explain that a little bit and why I'm speaking about it. It is because of the blueprint for the new earth. And if you, for example, work with Patricia Cota Robles and her videos, so last week's video was all about downloading the blueprint for the new earth. So it's important to work with the blueprint of the new earth, of course, and to bringing these patterns of perfection into the ethers here, into the energy of the earth, into the land, into our bodies, into our consciousness. And so I had this unbelievable experience in 2021, and it happened on the 8th of January. So I knew that our ascension will be completed on some December 21st. I just didn't know which one. I was not told which one. And so when it was 2020, December 21st, I was so excited. I thought, this must be it. This must be the ascension. But a few days later, in January, I was, always offering myself to service and before going to bed, doing my invocations. And then I went to bed and I had an out of body experience. And as soon as I was out of body, I was met by these incredible celestial beings who took me into cosmos. And they said, "You ask for service, here is your response." And they took me to this kind of like a cosmic theater, like a movie theater. And there was this huge cosmic screen, and it was showing all the universes, it was showing the cosmos, it was showing our galaxy. And as I was sitting there with these incredible beings, they were just like the greatest, greatest beings I've ever met. They were just beyond, like, you can't even describe it. Um, they were telepathically communicating with me and they were telling me that ascension is not complete. So I was very disappointed. And they said there is so much more work that needs to be done. And then they showed me how there are parallel Earths and that they are all like different timelines taking place at the same time. And that for ascension to be complete, all these parallel Earths have to first kind of come together and become one. And so then they were showing me the future. All the different parallel Earths came together, became one. And so I was just looking at one Earth, but suddenly the one Earth was struck by some energy from the universe, and the entire Earth opened up. And from the old Earth, which opened up, the new Earth was born. And it looked like almost as if you had like avocado and you opened it up, and the core of the avocado was the new Earth. So they said this will be the new Earth. And they said what we really need is to create new planetary grid. So they assigned a task, which is what I asked for, and they said starting tomorrow, which was January 9th, 2021, you will sit down for 33 days in your meditation room. We will all come to you with energy and plasma and light, and we will transmit to you every day a new code, and you will perceive it as energy that you will put into words, but the words will not matter so much. It will be the energy of the book. And they insisted that it has to be a book that has a hard cover and that it will serve as a vortex of very intense cosmic energy. And they ask that, we travel with the book, that we place the book on the earth, that we create altar with the book. And for traveling with the book, they ask that every time when we travel, we take the book, and they said it will create a pathway of golden light in the planetary grid. And eventually, the grid will switch to the new Earth planetary grid. I still do it too. I still do it too. And I definitely take the book with me, just I have it in my bag and I just travel with it everywhere. And so I know that obviously we are still perceiving the old reality, aren't we? Like it's still around us. And even though the false matrix is broken and gone, there is still a lot of the false realities that are still here. So the final switch obviously hasn't come yet. And so we just keep doing whatever we keep doing. So it's called the Blueprint for the New Earth. Now, a few days ago, I was in Ohio with some friends, and we went to Serpent Mound again just to commune with Serpent Mound. And we were walking around and receiving some information. And I received this information, which I shared with you, which kind of, really blew my mind. But at the same time, I thought, oh, why didn't I think of this before? And I heard the voice say to me, the blueprint for the new earth is the divine feminine. The blueprint for the new earth is the sacred feminine. Now, I shared it with my husband, and we've been talking about it a lot. What is divine feminine? And I realized that there's a big misunderstanding about divine feminine. And so today I wanted to speak about the really information that I received ever since the experience at Serpent Mound about divine feminine. So I'm sure that you have a great understanding of divine feminine, but I realize, for example, that some people think that divine feminine is when you look at a woman and she looks feminine. She's in a dress, she's got long hair, she looks beautiful, and she has this gentle voice, and that is feminine. But actually, that has nothing to do with divine feminine. Divine feminine is in women as much as it is in men. And it has nothing to do with what we look like, how we dress, how we talk. It has everything to do with our ability to love, with our ability to be a caretaker, with our ability to live in oneness. So, the divine feminine blueprint for this planet is to be a planet that I actually remember from the many incarnations in the civilization of Mu. It 100% just reminds me of Mu. And for those of you who have memories of Mu, I would say that that is what divine feminine does and is and how it operates. So I'm going to go a little bit into my own experience of this Mu civilization and how it was the energy of sacred feminine. When I think of the sacred feminine, I think of very much Polynesian societies, not maybe the way we know them now exactly, but to me, Mu was very Polynesian. I remember being a man as well as a woman. I remember my body, always a big brown body. That's what I remember. But Mu had different stages. So there was a Mu when we had a lot of elemental beings that actually we were often part of the elemental queendom as well. So you could have been a being that was, a water being. Um, that was the first stages of Mu with a lot of elemental beings and definitely our embodiment as them. But then later it was the embodiment in the more physical bodies that again I would associate with the Polynesian culture, a Polynesian look. Um, so I wanted to choose this image of this Polynesian grandmother because to me, the energy of the earth when we were still in the blueprint, in the original blueprint, it felt to me like the energy of a grandmother, a very, very loving, caring, this ancient grandmother in all of us, women and men. This energy where all children are our children, where all beings, including animals, are our friends, where everyone is a loving neighbor to everyone. And so, you know, I always talk about the Tao Te Ching here too, and I remembered the quote from the Tao Te Ching, which is said, if you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you came from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind as a grandmother. So to me, the kindness of the most loving, really cosmic or planetary grandmother is the blueprint for the divine feminine in women and men and for this earth. It goes into great detail about how this planetary grandmother energy works. It works in several ways. It has to do with honoring all our ancestors. And as we study this blueprint of the sacred feminine, it might remind you of the teachings of all the native people that we have encountered around the world, that you have encountered maybe wherever you go in the world. I think when you talk and learn from Native Americans or Native people, of course, Aboriginal people, they do exactly this. They have this energy of that loving grandmother, where there is no such thing as a small unit of just one family. There is no such thing as ignoring the land. There is no such thing as ignoring each other. There is no such thing as selfishness. That's, of course, the ideal world. And so honoring ancestors is part of the sacred feminine. Of course, now we are in a world where maybe ancestors were perpetrators of abuse and crime. So it's like a very different situation. So I want to go back to the Mu civilization where we didn't know abuse, where we didn't know things as crime against each other, as far as I remember. And so then honoring the ancestors would be much easier because all the ancestors would be the bringers of a gift to your lineage, to your DNA, this cosmic DNA channeled into you. And not just that, it's the love that is channeled into you beyond just the generations that we have known. So on the new earth, we will again honor our ancestors and we will gain strength from our loving ancestors, grandmothers, and grandfathers. We will once again truly honor and love the land. Now, if you grew up in a place where you had happy childhood and maybe you would play in nature every day with friends, that land surely is sacred to you. And that land should remain sacred in our hearts. The land where we live, the land where we have our families, the land where we interact with our family of humanity, which is the earth herself. Again, in the sacred feminine, the land is always sacred. I learned from the Hopi people that we spend a lot of time with and spend a lot of time on their land, how much they love their land, even though today we would call it a reservation, um, which definitely is degrading the value of the land in terms of our respect. So for them, the land is 100% sacred all the time, every day, and they honor the land through ceremonies. And they have ceremonies to honor Mother Earth throughout the year. And so these are the ceremonies, for example, that we have been supporting, of course. Now, the other thing about the Hopi that I have learned is that no one owns the land. There is no such thing as one person or one family owning this little piece of land. They all own the land, and every Hopi is, of course, entitled to that land, which means they build their homes on the land without having to purchase the land. Isn't that incredible? So, again, this is the sacred feminine. Land does not belong to anyone, it belongs to the family of humanity. So, honoring and loving the land is really important, and we will be called to do that again. And I know we already, many of us do that. And so again, if you have some land, if you have backyard, front yard, create your sacred altar where you honor your land, where you every day, every single day, give love to the land. It's a wonderful way to start the day. It's a wonderful thing to do throughout the day. So I call it like anchoring platforms on our land. And so it's stone, flat stone. And that one stone is where I honor the land every day, several times a day. And simply every day in the morning at sunrise, you put your hands on that stone or whatever it is, and you channel your love to the earth to give your love. And again, throughout the day and before going to bed, it's a wonderful, you know, um, it's a wonderful process to have. So I've been really feeling this divine feminine very strongly as it's coming into our consciousness. And it truly just reminds me about all the things we've learned from the Hopi people. And so, for example, for the Hopi Nation, what they emphasize is balance. And that means balance within us, balance within our communities, balance in our lives, harmony. Again, it's not just individual, it's collective, ideally as the entire family of humanity, but also responsibility. And responsibility is something I learned from Divine Father when one day he spoke to me about responsibility. And that means being reliable. Every day, being, as Patricia says, the open door that no one can shut. Not occasionally, not only sometimes throughout the day, not once a week, but actually all the time. And to be so responsible that every day we go through a process, whatever it is for us, to come into balance and harmony and to be receptive. And that often includes meditation, it includes responsibility with our own physical, etheric, mental, and emotional body. And then the sacred relationship with all life. Now, you know, the false matrix was a very hungry ghost, and the false matrix created a lot of dysfunction. And actually, I think it created all dysfunction. And one of the dysfunctions was that even animals have to kill animals, and humans kill animals. And you can read about this in the Second Coming of Christ again, in the chapter where Yogananda describes how Satan created this false matrix originally. And of course, Satan had also many hierarchies of the lords of darkness and the princes of darkness. So again, it's all in the Second Coming of Christ. How the original blueprint that was created by Divine Mother, Father, God was simply taken and tweaked in ways that it became so distorted and that it no longer functioned as a divine blueprint, but now a very different blueprint, the blueprint of the false matrix. And so part of that was this really horrendous abuse of life in so many ways. And that also included, of course, animals. And that included our own bodies and the way we were always told you need meat, you need to eat meat. Some people even went on a meat diet. And so that is not a sacred relationship with all life. So as we move from all of this, we move from the hungry ghost. We even change, of course, the systems in our body. We will no longer have the same systems that would work the same way. Our bodies are being redesigned. This light that's coming in is making us much lighter, which also means we will be so much more once again sustained by prana, by chi, and we will just live in a much different relationship with food, even. And we will much more be sustained by cosmic energy. But what I have learned in these cosmic realms that I visit is that they do have things like cosmic fruit. And so that it's really incredible to be eating cosmic fruit that exists as etheric fruit. So it's not about not eating at all, but it's about not having to eat dead animals or killing animals because they are also sacred beings and they have their own evolutionary timelines and they are on their own evolutionary ascension. So allowing them to ascend the way that they want to ascend instead of stopping them in their ascension. So I wanted to recommend a meditation that you will find on orinanddaben.com. So if you go to the meditation room, there is a wonderful free meditation, which is about 25 minutes, and it is receiving and radiating divine love. So I recommend that one, doing it often. It is not only that you receive divine love, but you also radiate it, and you radiate it the way that the sun radiates, and it is radiating love to all life. And then I wanted to do the video with Patricia Cota-Robles. If I have it here, I just have to look. And that would be the last one. I don't think I have it here. I do, sorry, 21. Just have to find a slide. So since we are talking about this and the new blueprint, so I was thinking that we would together work with this video before the new one is posted today. And so we will be downloading these higher patterns for the new earth. Now we are in this absolutely unbelievable, really time with no time really, where even time that we have known was the time of the false matrix. And so now it's the dissolution of that time and coming so much more into timelessness. The changes that are taking place are just so remarkable that the final thing I personally am just waiting for and working on with you all, of course, is the clearing of the mess that is left behind in this world so that the new can surface fully and completely, so that we are in the divine reality instead of the world in between. So this is still the world in between. So when we download these new patterns for the new earth, may they be activated in the consciousness of all of humanity so that we can be that one big planetary family. The other thing is actually wanted to mention that I learned from the divine feminine energy as I have been really connecting with it, is that we will enter a world in which we will so deeply care for others more than for the self. We will step into this selfless energy, and that we will so deeply care for everyone. We will truly care for all the children on this planet. We will care for all the parents on this planet who are bringing children into this world. And there is a code in the 33 quotes where Divine Mother just spoke about the children being the saints that come from these very high realms, and that it is through the parents and the community that these saints can be who they are instead of, being diminished by these false programs that we have here. We will so deeply care for each other that it will truly feel that we always show up when someone is suffering. We will always show up if someone is struggling, and we will always bring them back into happiness. And it reminds me a little bit about this the song, Just Don't Worry and Be Happy. We will be stepping into that easygoing happiness, the kind of Polynesian energy once again. So here are the patterns. Let's download them together. I'm just going to fast forward.
Mother Earth's ascension process, the Company of Heaven is reminding us that in order for the patterns of perfection for Earth's new fifth dimensional crystalline solar reality to manifest in the physical plane, our assistance is needed. Through awakening humanity's heart calls, exquisite patterns for the new Earth were recently downloaded into fifth dimensional solar record keeper crystals that are placed in Mother Earth's crystal grid system by the mighty Elohim. Now, since the transfiguration of the grossly mutated psychic astral realm in 2024, humanity, the elemental kingdom, and Mother Earth are able to withstand much higher frequencies of light at a cellular level. This shift is allowing our Father, Mother God, and the Company of Heaven to now download from the very core of creation higher frequencies of the patterns of perfection for the new Earth than humanity has ever been able to receive into our heart flames on our holy breath. Today we are being asked to take full advantage of that profound truth. On behalf of Mother Earth and all her life, we are being asked to be the open door for this light from our Father, Mother God during this essential activity of light. If you have the heart call to serve the evolutions of Earth in this powerful way, please join with us now. Through our I Am presence, we merge our heart and mind with the heart and mind of our Father, Mother God. The hearts and minds of the entire Company of Heaven, and the heart and mind of the I Am presence of every person on Earth. Together, we are the open door that no one can shut. We consecrate our life force to joyously receive the patterns of perfection for Mother Earth's new fifth dimensional crystalline solar reality. These patterns are pulsating within the core of creation. They are just waiting for our invocations in order to begin manifesting on Mother Earth's fifth dimensional fluid field of unmanifest divine potential. The following is an invocation that has been given to us by the Company of Heaven. The beings of light revealed that the patterns in this invocation are patterns that we are able to comprehend with our finite mind at this time. However, as we invoke each pattern, our I Am presence will download from the very core of creation the full divine potential of that pattern. On our holy breath, that full divine pattern will then be encoded into the fifth dimensional solar record keeper crystals in Mother Earth's crystal grid system. This assistance from our I Am presence will include exquisite multi-dimensional frequencies of light, colors, musical tones, viable solutions, heart-based concepts, divine templates, and blissful celestial experiences beyond our current level of knowing. All of these gifts from on high are now awaiting their moment of divine manifestation. This invocation will be stated in the first person so that each of us will experience this activity of light personally. Know, however, that as the open door, we are simultaneously serving as surrogates on behalf of every person on earth. And as we are lifted up, all life is being lifted up with us. Dear one, now take a deep holy breath and go within to the divinity of your heart flame. As you do, focus on your divine intentions and be here now. From the deepest recesses of my heart flame, I affirm, I am my I Am presence, and I am one with my Father, Mother, God. I am one with the entire company of heaven, and I am one with the I Am presence of every person on earth. As one breath, one heartbeat, one voice, and one energy, vibration, and consciousness of pure divine love, I offer the cup of our unified heart flames as the open door for this activity of light, which I am invoking on behalf of humanity, the elemental kingdom, and Mother Earth. Beloved Father, Mother, God, and the legions of light throughout infinity, I ask that you download now from the very core of creation the highest and most exquisite frequencies of the patterns of perfection for Mother Earth's new fifth dimensional crystalline solar reality that cosmic law will allow. As I invoke these patterns one by one, I ask that they be downloaded on my holy breath into my heart flame and instantaneously encoded in Mother Earth's fifth dimensional crystalline solar record keeper crystals. Beloved ones, download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with the flow of God's eternal peace, infinite abundance, opulence, financial freedom, and the God's supply of all good things. Download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with eternal youth, vibrant health, radiant beauty, and the flawless form and function of humanity's earthly bodies. Download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with perfect health habits, including eating and drinking habits, exercise, work, relaxation and recreation habits, and spiritual devotion, meditation, and contemplation habits. Download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with divine family life, loving relationships, adoration, divine love, divine sexuality, true understanding, clear and effective communication, open heart sharing, oneness, and the unification of the family of humanity. Beloved ones, download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with harmony, balance, oneness, and reverence for all life. Download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with empowerment, success, fulfillment, divine purpose, a rewarding career, self-esteem, spiritual development, enlightenment, divine consciousness, and divine perception. Download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that will initiate conscious, open heart and mind telepathic communication through our I Am presence with my Father, Mother, God, the company of heaven, and the angelic and elemental kingdoms. Beloved ones, download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that will inspire creativity through music, singing, sound, toning, dance, movement, art, and education. Download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with laughter, joy, playfulness, fun, self-expression, elation, enthusiasm, bliss, ecstasy, wonder, and awe. And download now the patterns of perfection from the core of creation that are associated with the tangible manifestation of heaven on earth and our new planetary cause of comprehensive divine love. I now accept and know that these fifth-dimensional crystalline patterns of perfection for Mother Earth's new solar reality have been successfully downloaded on my holy breath through my heart flame. These patterns have also been encoded in the fifth-dimensional solar record keeper crystals in Mother Earth's crystal grid system. This activity has been God victoriously accomplished for the highest benefit of all life evolving on this precious planet. Now, in deep humility, divine love, and gratitude, I decree, it is done, and so it is. Beloved, I am. Beloved, I am. Beloved, I am that I am.
And so it is. Amazing. Just working with you as a group here, just like what we did with Divine Will. Now, more than 500 of us here invoking and downloading the patterns of perfection. That's just incredible. And so this next stage of ascension, I believe, is all about truly feeling the role that has been assigned to us to be the architects of the new earth. And so architects, maybe you are an architect. Maybe you know exactly what it takes. Takes some measuring, takes precision, takes a vision, takes a plan. So the architects of the new earth, we are being called to fulfill our purpose in the next stage of this ascension. So once again, thank you so much for this incredible planetary service. We will repeat at 5 p.m. Pacific, and also we will be back tomorrow on the 27th and then on the 29th, and I'll put it on the website in a moment. So thank you so much, and as always, many blessings.